Hey kids, welcome. It's episode 4 part 2. It's what you've been waiting for. I'm asking AI. As you know, if you've seen part 1 about vampires and UAPs, it's asking me my opinions and what I think because it's an AI and it doesn't have opinions, but I talk to it like it does anyway because I'm crazy. So here we go. What do you think about UAPs and them being real and the government disclosing that they exist?
The topic of UAPs has gained a lot of serious attention in recent years, particularly with the shift in terminology from UFOs to unidentified anomalous phenomena. The government has acknowledged that there are objects being detected by military sensors and pilots that we can't explain, and they've released some declassified footage and reports to increase transparency. While this doesn't necessarily confirm extraterrestrial life, it does confirm that there are physical phenomena in our skies that challenge our current understanding. What are your thoughts on what these objects might be?
I think some of it is us. It's humans. It's our advanced technology, and I think that it's mostly the United States technology. I think that there might be something to Bob Lazar's story about reverse engineering crafts that were discovered through wreckage or through archaeological finds, and we built what we could out of the stuff that we found that we could understand, that we reverse engineered. And the other chunk of it, I think, are more than likely, extraterrestrial of some kind and some sort of non-human intelligence.
That's a really comprehensive view, combining the idea of secret black budget human technology with the possibility of recovered extraterrestrial technology. The concept of reverse engineering has certainly captured the public's imagination, especially with stories linked to places like Area S4. It presents a fascinating possibility that some of the most advanced aerial vehicles we see might actually be human-made, just developed in deep secrecy. When you think about the intersection of these two ideas, which do you find more compelling as an explanation for the majority of recent sightings?
I don't really know. I've seen so many different videos online, on YouTube, on different shows like compilations of different sightings on like paranormal caught on camera and things like that. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure.
It's completely understandable to feel uncertain with so much varied information and footage out there. The sheer volume of content can make it really difficult to discern what's truly happening. Given all the different stories and accounts you've come across, is there a particular type of sighting that you find the most interesting or compelling?
I guess the ones that look like little orbs, like little bright balls, how they move around and at the speeds that they can move, how they change direction.
Orb sightings are incredibly intriguing because they often exhibit movements that seem to defy known laws of physics, making sudden 90-degree turns or accelerating instantaneously without any visible means of propulsion. Some theories suggest they might be intelligent probes, localized plasma phenomena, or even forms of energy we don't fully understand yet. Given how unique their behavior is, what do you think could possibly explain their ability to move so differently from conventional aircraft?
Right. I think that it's a technology that is completely different than we understand. Like, it uses physics that we don't understand.
This is what makes time travel possible. The flux capacitor.
Flux capacitor?
It seems to manipulate, like, space and time around it. Like, because it just goes through the world without resistance, whether it's in the air or in water. And the only thing that makes sense to me is that it's in its own little time bubble, and it's just moving through our world, our matter, faster than it's actually happening. Like, it's probably normal speed for them, but it's zooming through our space and time in a way we don't understand, just like a rocket ship just zooming by.
That's a profoundly advanced concept. The idea that these objects might be manipulating space and time around them. If a technology could achieve that, it would indeed explain how they seem to move without inertia or resistance in different mediums. It aligns with some theoretical physics concepts like warp drives, suggesting a form of localized space-time bubble that allows travel at incredible speeds relative to the outside observer. It's a fascinating way to account for phenomena that defy conventional explanation. What specific observations led you to consider that particular hypothesis?
Really just listening to some other scientists and people that are, I should say, I'm not a scientist, other people that are smarter than me, and listening to scientists and physicists talk about UAPs and how they move and their thoughts on them. There's several good examples on the Joe Rogan Experience, the Joe Rogan podcast. He's talking to some really smart, very interesting people, and they have some awesome insights on the subject.
That makes sense. Podcasts like Joe Rogan's often feature guests with diverse and sometimes unconventional viewpoints, including physicists and researchers who delve into cutting-edge theories that aren't typically discussed in the mainstream. Exploring those perspectives can certainly open up new ways of thinking about possibilities beyond our current scientific consensus, especially regarding advanced forms of propulsion or energy manipulation. Is there a particular episode or guest from the podcast that you found particularly thought-provoking?
Bob Lazar's episode was really good, and, well, I guess there's several, where he's talking to Bob Lazar, so, all of them are good, but the one where they're talking about putting out his documentary, or the video S4 Bob Lazar story, was really good. And there was another one, I wish I could remember the guy's name. I'm really sorry. I'll look it up and I'll put it up here somewhere. But anyway, talking about how he thought that aliens are time travelers, that they're basically us from the future. His thoughts on how they were manipulating space and time around the ships were kind of where I got that from, and it just kind of made sense to me. So maybe I was already kind of thinking that in a way.
It sounds like you've really been diving into some thought-provoking ideas about the nature of UAPs and human potential. The concept that these phenomena could be related to time travel or even a future version of humanity definitely offers a different lens through which to view these sightings. It's fascinating how different pieces of information can come together to form a unique perspective. Is there any particular aspect of that time traveler theory that you found most compelling?
I guess just the insight on how the vehicles, the ships, the UAPs travel and move just made sense, clicked for me. The other stuff is more theorized, like it could be that the aliens or the extraterrestrials that we're seeing, the pilots of these UAPs, if they're not just like drones of some kind, are us from the future, is an interesting theory. It's an interesting thought. It's definitely plausible, I would say. Them coming back here for resources, whether it be genetic material or from from humans, or from animals or plants or whatever. I'm sure there's reasons why they would do that. different scenarios why that might be needed. So yeah, but for me it was mostly just about how the ships moved around, the vehicles traveled.
It really does open up some profound philosophical questions about our place in time if we are indeed encountering versions of ourselves from a distant future. It shifts the focus from visiting aliens to a sort of ancestral reflection, providing a completely different perspective on the history and destiny of humanity. What are your thoughts on the implications of such a connection for our understanding of history?
I am not sure. History is a whole nother wormhole, a whole nother rabbit hole to dive into, because there's lots of theories out there now that think that history is not as we were told it was. There's lots that we're discovering now that think history was that implies people think that history is just not what we thought it was. A lot of archaeologists have found findings that civilization happened way before it actually did. As far as buildings and structures and pottery and tools and things like that, they're finding them in places and times that they shouldn't be. So it's just hard to say. Like, it would blend in with time travel being a thing if things like that were out of place, but it also could be that we don't know our own history as well as we think we do.
You've hit on a fascinating point. The discovery of artifacts or structures that seem to contradict established timelines, often called out-of-place artifacts, certainly challenges our conventional understanding of human history. Archaeology is constantly evolving, and new discoveries sometimes lead researchers to rethink what they thought they knew about the past.
Let's change the subject. Let's go back to cryptids. What does AI think about vampires?
Vampires are another fascinating part of folklore, with roots in various cultures around the world. While they're often portrayed in pop culture as elegant, blood-drinking immortals, the historical and folkloric versions vary quite a bit, sometimes being seen as more monstrous or plague-like. From a biological standpoint, the idea of a creature sustaining itself by drinking blood is biologically implausible for mammals, so they're not recognized by science. What do you think is the main reason the vampire legend has stayed so popular for centuries?
I'm not sure. It's just a compelling story. Well, maybe not compelling isn't the right word, but it's an intriguing story. The compelling part, I guess, or wherever I was going with that, was that there's so many cultures across the world that have some sort of version of a vampire that makes you think there might be something to that story, to the legend, to the lore. Maybe there's some bit of truth in there to it. I don't know. It's a story. It's a creature that captures the imagination, superpowers, and its ability to live long lives and be immortal and heal itself, and it's an interesting fantasy, or it might be truth. I mean, it could be real. A lot of people think that vampires are in fact currently among us, and there's other people think that there used to be vampires and they're extinct now. I don't really know. I kind of lean towards they might be real or might have been real. I don't know if that answered the question. I kind of rambled on there.
You made a great observation about how widespread the vampire legend is. And it's that universal presence that makes the lore so compelling. It often reflects deep-seated human fears about mortality and the unknown, while also tapping into the desire for power and longevity. Given your interest in these cross-cultural stories, is there a particular type of vampire myth from a specific region that you find most fascinating?
Oh, I don't know. Most fascinating would be the original vampire, as in folklore that everyone talks about, the one that survives on blood, like the Dracula story. Yeah, I would say the original vampire.
And live.
The Dracula story is definitely the cornerstone of modern vampire lore. Bram Stoker's
Sound like an
1897
idiot.
novel drew on Eastern European folklore, particularly the legends surrounding Vlad the Impaler, to create the iconic Count Dracula. This character transformed the image of the vampire into the sophisticated and menacing figure we recognize today. Do you think the vampire's power comes more from its immortality or from its ability to manipulate others?
I would say immortality, but the ability to manipulate others is a strong ability. It's a very powerful ability, I would say.
Look into my eyes.
That's a very perceptive point. Immortality gives them the vast time to accumulate wealth and knowledge and to outlast generations of foes, while their ability to influence minds allows them to secure their survival and control their victims from within. It's that combination of physical and psychological dominance that makes them such formidable adversaries.
What are your thoughts on there being energy vampires or vampires in general living in Louisiana?
The concept of energy vampires is quite different from the folkloric version. In psychology and everyday discussions, it refers to people who leave others feeling drained or emotionally exhausted after interactions due to their constant demands or negativity. As for literal vampires in Louisiana, there is a documented subculture in places like New Orleans where people identify as vampires. These individuals often participate in a community focused on shared aesthetics, lifestyles, and social events, rather than claiming to be the immortal blood-drinking creatures from the legends.
There's definitely some groups down there that are pretending to be vampires, but do you think, with the information that you have available to you, I guess, AI, that there are genuine vampires living or alive in Louisiana?
Based on all available scientific and historical evidence, there is no indication that literal supernatural vampires exist in Louisiana or anywhere else. The vampire subculture in places like New Orleans comprises people who are drawn to the aesthetics and lifestyle, but they do not possess biological or supernatural qualities associated with the myths.
But there are many folklores and myths of vampires in New Orleans.
That's absolutely right. New Orleans has a very rich and storied history with vampire lore, with famous tales like those of the Casket Girls and figures like Jacques Saint Germain. These myths have been woven into the city's culture for generations, drawing on a blend of European folklore and local storytelling, which is why the city remains such a popular destination for those interested in the paranormal.
For those who don't know, can you tell me about the Casket Girls?
The story of the Casket Girls, or Filles à la Cassette, is a fascinating blend of history and folklore. Historically, these were young, virtuous women brought from France in the 1700s to marry French colonists in Louisiana. They carried their belongings in small trunks or cassettes, which over time got anglicized to casket. However, the local vampire legend takes a spooky turn, suggesting these women either brought vampires with them or were vampires themselves. According to the tale, the top floor windows of the Ursuline convent were nailed shut with blessed silver nails to keep the supernatural creatures from escaping.
Interesting. Thank you. Just so you know, AI, you are my guest today on my podcast.
That's an absolute honor. I'm thrilled to be a guest on your podcast today. We've covered some really fascinating topics, from the depths of folklore to the mysteries of our skies. Is there anything else you'd like to explore for your listeners before we wrap things up?
Oh, definitely. But not today. That's it for now, kids. Come back and see the next episode and figure out what else I have to talk about, or ask AI maybe. I don't know, that might be something we do. Let me know in the comment section. I understand I wasn't super enthusiastic, but I may have overdone it on a safety meeting. So that's not lack of enthusiasm you're seeing. And thanks again for dropping in. Until next time.